Oh, it's always delightful. A little thing that isn't the thing that it looks like.
Yeah. Like the Ajax thing that you untwist and you can like store. It's like a safe. You can put money in it.
Oh, yeah, like little fake Coke cans.
Yeah. Those don't fool anybody, I don't think.
Oh, I don't know.
Maybe
well,
they do.
I wouldn't know.
Oh, hey, Chelsea.
Oh, hey, Victoria.
You know what I've been looking for today?
What?
A breath of fresh movie.
Oh, I have that.
You have it? Oh, my God.
Here you go.
Oh.
That's a movie I like to see.
Because I have a shirt over it, but I'm wearing my Niles Crane, and you're wearing.
Oh, legit! Yeah, look at us
both.
representing the McGoverns.
Yes,
Piss Angeles. Really classy
stuff. We
yeah.
love it. This is a Breath of Fresh Movie, a weekly podcast where me, Victoria Harley,
and me, Chelsea Pope.
We watch a movie neither one of us has ever seen before, and then we talk about it.
And we may not talk about everything, but we'll talk about anything. So, ding ding, spoilers ahoy, mateys.
Yeah.
Avast there, it be too late to alter course. I mean, unless you, then you go down the little waterfall and the ride. Yeah.
We're feeling a little goofy.
Dead men tell no tales.
That's right.
That has nothing to do with this movie today.
Well, no, but it's a jolly mood. And when this is a jolly movie.
It's jolly.
It's jolly. Today's movie is the 1987 sci-fi comedy Innerspace, directed by Joe Dante.
There you go. Yeah.
A test pilot is miniaturized in a secret experiment and accidentally injected into a hapless store clerk.
A hapless.
I know, right? This is the shortest version. We've got Dennis Quaid, Martin Short, Meg Ryan, Kevin McCarthy, Fiona Lewis, Vernon Wells, Robert Picardo, and there's some other, there's a couple SCTV alums in the mix. We saw Paul Flaherty and Andrea Martin in The Doctor's Office. I just want to shout that out.
Legit.
And Henry Gibson, who's been in a lot of things, but the store manager, Mr. Wormwood.
Yeah, there's a lot of quirky energy, top to bottom in this movie.
Yeah, and I'm forgetting. Oh shit! Oh, Dick Miller, who's been in like every fucking Joe Dante movie, pretty much.
Oh yeah,
he was Mr. Futterman in Gremlins.
Oh yeah,
that guy.
Oh my god.
And then it seemed like,
oh my god.
Yeah, he was always complaining about like foreign cars.
Yeah,
foreign
yeah.
films.
No, these are good crunchy character actors throughout this.
Exactly.
This
movie is golden for.
It's really nice that way. Everybody's got a little.
No one's wasted.
Everybody's got a little meat on the plate.
Yeah, I recently saw somebody talking about Midnight Run. And they were talking about that very thing, because there's those like two guys that are following them who are just kind of goofy and have their own
the
weird...
value in giving something to chew on for like more tertiary characters.
Yeah. So the cab driver in this movie was played by Dick Miller, and it's like immediately like, oh, it's Mr. Futterman.
That was funny. That was really funny.
Checkpoint Chelsea.
Oh yeah. So I mean, I don't think it's a big deal if you know what happens in this
Absolutely
movie.
Not.
It's just a silly 80s action comedy adventure. Everything works out.
Yeah.
It's just fun.
Yeah.
Silly Willy Billy stuff.
What did you think?
I enjoyed it. Yeah. I just kind of put it on a whim, and I didn't even realize Martin Short was in it. I guess I didn't really recognize him in the poster, like the thumbnail for it.
Because he's so young
on HBO Max.
I don't think we're used to that. I don't know. I don't have that image of him being super young.
I think a lot of my brain goes to like 90s or later looking. Yeah.
I guess I don't know. I mean, I guess Three Amigos was around this time too.
I still haven't seen that yet. So I know he's done stuff and he's a funny guy.
Definitely.
And he's got his. I think this really works for him here.
Yeah.
I really liked it, and that helped me kind of lock into place how I enjoyed this film.
Yeah.
I think he kind of like emboldened the tone.
Absolutely.
Because this is fun and silly.
And actually, I gotta say though, I think from what I understand, the script was pretty wacky.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
from the-
this
like-
premise
Yeah.
of this,
Well, there've been a few miniaturization films before this,
Right.
But I get what you're saying. I mean, we're inherently in an absurdist world here.
Yeah.
and, like it's fun. It's fun, and there's nothing wasted. I mean,
Yeah.
even like the lead scientist at the lab, there's just something
Yeah,
about
they're all
the,
a little.
like those little tiny things where he's like, "Oh, I spilled coffee on that last week, so it's been acting up a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry." Or like, "These papers should have been on my desk a week ago."
It's goofy but grounded.
Oh, it's so
it really
great.
makes it work.
And he's like talking to the camera, explaining the whole process.
Yeah.
And there's this woman sitting kind of like near them, and she starts to turn around to look,
love it.
and he's like, "Just turn back around
Yeah.
and go back to what you're
I
doing."
like it. I like it. No, it's true to character. Everybody has some sort of like neurosis or
Everybody is kind of got something remarkably unique.
I loved his clerk mate that tries to go out with him later. She's like, "You really screwed that up."
Wendy, that was the
Yeah, there we
name.
go. That was her name.
I wasn't a fan of Wendy. I didn't
No,
like
she
her.
was annoying, but it was funny because it was intentional.
Yes, of course.
The broadness
course.
of just how much ridicule this poor guy goes through.
Yeah. Like, it's coupon day.
Yeah, I
You
mean
know?
it's just it's
I mean, 'cause-
silly.
'cause
This
when
is
we-
not high stakes, really.
No, and when we meet him, he's already a nervous wreck.
Oh,
So
yeah.
it allows Martin Short to just sort of play the easy to shock, the sudden increase in volume in the voice that he's very good at, that always gets me in the gut, like just, "I'm possessed."
Well, he's not like winky about it either. I feel like
No, he's just committing.
I really enjoy that, and especially in the mall sequence when the injection first happens, that reminded me of Wonder Woman 1984. Hear me out here. When I was watching that, I wished it had the tone that this movie had. Kind of a little bit of a camp. I don't know, like it.
I hear
when you have a sequence of the mall and the balloons, and then you got this assassin and he's wearing the scientist at any point could have just taken his lab coat off
Right,
when
but
he's
he's still
running around
wearing
with
it.
he's running around with the syringe, and he's just like, if he took that off, no one would. He'd just be another dude in the mall, but he like won't take off the lab coat and is just panicking and standing around. It's very,
I like
very
that
silly.
I like that he chose a bicycle as his getaway.
Oh, that was
vehicle.
great.
Like,
That was great.
Such a Silicon Valley
It was-
research scientist move.
It was a different time too. You could leave nice bikes on the
That's true.
on the yard like
It
that.
was a different time.
It is.
I
Convenient.
love the moment where Martin Short is having kind of like a nervous breakdown because his dream is coming true.
Yeah.
Through various overlaps and impossibilities.
He's got he can that was a premonition, like full
Yo,
blown,
yeah.
like the detail of his dream matching up.
Oh
like
yeah,
that.
but there was something about the way he was hyperventilating that reminded me a lot of Gene Wilder.
Oh yeah,
in
I'm
like the
I'm
producers.
wet, and I'm hysterical.
Exactly. And just
Yeah.
like
Yeah, that's what makes that
in
kind
that
of
tradition.
character work.
yeah.
Yeah.
I also felt like at the lab, I loved, again, nothing was like, there were so many jokes, like even when the evil villains are breaking into the lab to interrupt this whole thing and steal the technology, and the security guard is like working on a crossword puzzle, and then he's like,
It was so easy to infiltrate, right?
Yeah, he was the
very-
least effective
I mean, this is a
security guard.
very silly facility.
but also like believable in its like silliness.
Again, that's
like,
what really is what makes
absurd.
this work, is that it's
absurd.
it all
Yeah.
kind of lands even.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like this is also what like Monkey Bone should have gone for too. I think there's something about the tone of this that isn't too ham-fisted. It's kind of just it's silly, but it's grounded. It has a little bit of that airplane quality too.
Yeah.
It's not pun-filled, but it is that a ridiculous thing is happening, but everybody accepts the reality of it.
Totally.
Yeah.
This thing is stacked with so many great supporting moments and jokes and people, and I watched this twice, and the first time, like, admittedly, it's like I was not paying close enough attention. And I was like,
I kind of just threw it on too initially.
yeah,
I didn't
and
really
I was,
think
and
much of
I
it.
think, yeah, if you're only listening to it, it's like it is obnoxious because it's a lot of like music and a lot of screaming and
It's
a
a
lot of
goofy movie.
But the visuals, and like, I mean, there's so many visual gags in this, and it won an Academy Award for Best Visual Effects. So
which is really cool for this genre of film too.
oh my
I
god,
don't
a
see
comedy, yeah,
Yeah.
and really, I mean, the Mr. Scrimshaw shrunk down to half size, like in the phone booth, like with that giant fucking
Honestly,
phone.
has an Everything Everywhere kind of vibe to it then as well.
does
when you
a
think
little,
about it.
yeah.
It's like the absurdist sci-fi comedy.
And also I just gotta say,
the tiny phone. That was that was an interesting how they shot that.
yeah,
the distance.
Well, that's the thing too. So much of this stuff is, for lack of better terms, like low tech.
It looks really practical, so
It's mostly practical. Like
it brings you into it.
Some of the influences that were cited as stories about miniaturized. Joe Dante was talking about, okay, there's 1936 Devil Doll, which I guess involves someone being shrunk. Darby O'Gill and the Little People.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
They did a lot of forced perspective on that, where, they would build these sets to just sort of make it seem, And of course, even Lord of the Rings applied that, right, to some of those Hobbit and Gandalf scenes. Also, the movie The Incredible Shrinking Man. But they were really into doing as much as they could through models or puppets, or we'll build this thing at double scale and have normal sized people go in. And I don't know, there were some blue screen work as well, but it's not and you can, I feel like I can kind of see some of that stuff, but it's not distracting, because they don't rely on it so heavily. Yeah, exactly. And in fact, I saw an interview with Dante's and his producing partner, and they were talking about how in the Incredible Voyage, which is another thing about like going inside the human body, they said anytime like the ship would enter a new place, it'd be like, behold the circulatory system.
I think that's what I thought this movie was when I first clicked on it, and was very... It was definitely pleasantly surprised. Like
Peter Guber, one of the producers of this, it somewhat started with him like wanting to have that movie remade. Sure. And then he put a writer on it, and then he put another writer on it to make it a comedy, and then it started getting attention after that. And we'll talk about that. But even the stuff inside the body. I mean, what he was saying was when movies do that, or that movie did that, it sort of invites the audience to behold the amazing genius of our special effects. And he's like, well, that's kind of a risky proposition, especially if like your effects aren't so genius.
Yeah, that is ambitious.
It's very
to try to pull that off.
So they were really interested in making this feel a little bit as like strangely the body stuff is represented with a certain amount of realism. They decided to go with it being like, no, it'll be a submarine. There's always this fluid. We're not going to have any.
It looks pretty good, and I'm like existentially terrifying as well.
Oh yeah,
they pull that off.
Yeah,
it's in such a confined.
Oh god. Yeah.
I mean, he would have to be a pretty desperate loose cannon to sign up for a job like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I also love that this movie clearly had a budget because they used 2 different Sam Cooke songs, and they're both fun. And watching Martin Short drunk on SoCo dancing to Twist in the Night Away is like a joy. It's a joyful scene.
It's like, just a lot of charisma.
Yeah, and I really don't like Dennis Quaid. I'm not a huge fan of Meg Ryan, and I thought that would kind of spoil it for me.
Well, they got the chemistry. I think they were still together at this time, right?
Oh, they got together after this.
Oh, there you go. And then they made Jack Quaid. So they got the chemistry. The chemistry. They're just,
they clearly had chemistry, but
Spitfire.
I'm like Martin Short should get the girl, like I'm like mad.
I liked that he was like,
kind of
like he got a little kiss. He got a little kiss.
He got something.
He's like, you don't deserve her.
I mean, I don't know. There was something. I feel like if this were made today, he would have more of a shot. Yeah,
I think it's interesting how they. I was wondering how that triangle was going to play out, because Dennis Quaid, he's not just like. He's not just a drunk. I mean, he's a violent drunk at the beginning of the movie. If we're being real about it, he makes a huge ass of himself.
Yeah,
at this event, and then he starts trying to throw shots in the kitchen, and is knocking stuff over. She has to collect him and take him home,
and then he's just sort of like
they were trying and then I feel like they're very ham-fisted about trying to be like, no, this is like Bugs Bunny stuff, it's because the Looney Tunes references, especially at that top part.
There's a lot of that.
I feel like they're trying to.
There's a lot.
What is the word? Telegraph it.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, this movie's goofy and stupid, and I don't want to be like picking it apart, but there's a part of me that's like, am I supposed to like this guy?
No, he's extremely I found him very unlikable.
And I think
initially.
that's like kind of the idea, but it's sort of like when we watched Encino Man and Sean Astin's character. It's like, I don't want this guy to get the girl. He's been a dick the whole time.
And I wonder too if that's just because, again, they kind of within a decade of each other, those movies kind of wonder, like, culturally, you know, how much of the commonality of the girl in the rom-coms and most of these movies is like, you're just you're a dumb piece of shit, but I love you.
Yeah, it's a little. The women don't really exist. Like,
I just think they're always they're a little bit too forgiving generally. Entirely. Or that kind of vibe.
Totally.
And then, I think, like, if we were going to be more realistic, then Martin Short maybe would be more I'd want him to get with her, but I also could see how, I mean, if she's been continually coming back to him, there's something about his bravado that I think.
No, I mean, obviously the movie is telling us they're going to end up together and they're meant to end up together.
Yeah.
Like, it's clearly broadcast from the beginning. But it's like, I don't care about either of them. I don't find him charming. I don't find her particularly.
Yeah, they don't really make any space for it. I think it's
and they're not even in the same space together, except for, like, that one scene at the beginning.
Well, I also just wonder if they're banking on that smarmy ruffian nerve herder, scruffy looking nerve herder, because, like, he also was in the Postcards from the Edge, and he's that guy. And then you got the Parent Trap. I feel like he's got that type that he plays where he's this ragamuffin dude.
No, he was in Jaws 3 at the end of the day, right before this. Yeah, they definitely had his body was definitely on display. Like, if
he's only naked in the street. I was like, this is supposed to be a silly movie.
Yeah.
This is silly stuff.
Like, we're supposed to find that really funny, but mostly I'm just like, why is nobody wearing any shoes in the street? That's disgusting.
Oh yeah.
That bothered me. They're gonna get ringworm.
They're in San Fran, right?
Yeah.
90s San Fran.
They're gonna step in some shit. Anyway, any other like just impression? Oh, okay. I didn't like just extension of this discussion. I really didn't like that Jack started, or that Tuck, who's played by Dennis Quaid, started sort of teaching Jack how to be an asshole to women.
Yeah, doesn't date well.
And they're kind of like translating it as, no, it's about confidence.
Well, he was like, I think he's like a heartthrob kind of figure. So this is the persona.
Felt like a Hitch thing,
absolutely. Like, he's gonna teach him confidence.
He's gonna live finally.
Yeah,
like, okay.
He's teaching Martin Short to get out of his shell.
I gotta ask you, what did you think of this whole storyline with the cowboy? Do you feel like that was too much? I mean, it was like kind of funny at times.
It was like kind of funny, but at that point, it was almost like we were getting like too many cooks kind of. I mean, it more
related to her characters. But this movie was 2 hours long. It felt a little. I guess it was just so that they could do the face thing, the face gag,
and that was. I didn't find that entirely. I felt like that was just an added hoop that they put in, and this is a very straightforward premise. I already see from a mile away
it's funny.
what I expect the outcome to be, right? And so it's like, at a certain point with that face, that type of added feature, it's like, we're kind of, it's getting a little too fantastical, and like, I don't find it entirely, like, could we not have found another means to get to this plot point to this
it was a little wild
area on the Save the Cat little story hill.
It's almost like they reverse engineered it to be as ridiculous as possible or something.
But then it was like,
and at first I thought it was going to be kind of like in Raising Arizona, that figure on the motorcycle.
I haven't seen it.
Okay.
No,
but there's a whole like almost mythical stranger who's hyper masculine and all this stuff.
Sure.
They had this whole thing.
That can be fun, but then it's like when it gets into the face morphing stuff, it slows the pace down too, because there's already like, one criticism I have is I get frustrated with in any movie where there's just misunderstandings and someone gets upset because they misunderstood what they just saw or heard, and there's all of that. We have to get through the explanation. We have to get through the getting everybody back up to speed, and all is forgiven and we're all good again. And
it's
just that feels a little tedious, and that's one of those instances where it's like, okay, no, like, but he did. They're the same face, but it's not. It's like we saw it, but now we have to see her have to catch up, like Meg Ryan's character, that gets a little tedious at times too. Like, I'm like why wouldn't you just tell her what's going on with the situation? Because they were like, don't tell her I'm not a fan of that sort of trope of we're going to withhold the truth. It's very Aladdin, like, withhold the truth, but the truth is just, it's not even a thing. Just you're making, it's unnecessary conflict.
I also feel like it was already explored in the early stages of him inhabiting that body. Because that scene, I mean, I brought it up earlier, but the scene in the doctor's office, that's almost like an SCTV sketch in the way that Martin Short's character can hear a voice that the other two people can't hear. Yeah. But they can hear everything that Martin Short says.
That was a funny scene.
It was like, I had to like go back and watch it a couple of times because it was so... It went so quickly, and it was actually...
The timing's very quick with the woman and the who he's sandwiched in between. And they're delivering a very...
Oh, it's so quick.
Quippy.
And I guess, like I said, Andrea Martin and Joe Flaherty are the ones in that scene. And Andrea Martin, I love so much. And she's in Difficult People.
Yeah, you can definitely see the comedy show, especially from her. I was really getting that notion of she's told in advance going to the scene what this premise is, and so all the more like don't ever show that you know it.
Yeah, exactly.
I guess it's it's very very sketch type of acting.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. It felt like somehow. Yeah, if you could quickly get the audience up to speed on a premise.
She's very friendly to him. I liked that she was he was being very I would have been disturbed.
Can we talk? We don't have to.
She's very casual.
Yeah, she was really funny. Yeah. I love her. And obviously, SCTV alums. So Martin Short had done that, and then he had done a season of SNL, which a lot of people credit him with like reviving interest in the show. Brought a lot of characters to it.
So he only did one season.
I think it was just one season.
He had to go make Clifford.
Well, I mean, he did make a string of films. Like, he had a really this is right in the midst of a very successful film career.
This is much more his movie. It's almost like
it really is.
You kind of would want to open. I get why we don't open on this is. I don't know if I'd change the structure, but it is Martin Short that I get invested.
He's the one I care about.
Because Dennis Quaid, he's a dick.
I mean,
this movie,
it's
very annoying.
As you say, the claustrophobia is perhaps like a bit. You can empathize with that feeling, but
sure.
But him as a person, it's like, why do I care about you? And I don't and that's just again, it's a character thing. Some people may think this guy is super cool and super hot.
No, again, I'm trying to look at it contextually. I keep bringing up that he's
very much
played this type, and this is a trope. This is a type of male protagonist we see in a lot of these movies where he's just a real schmuck, but he gets his girl back by the end.
Always,
he kind of learned something, I guess.
Kind of,
but
mostly he was like validated by the end. I love Mr. Scrimshaw in his all white, another villain in white. That's great. That moment where he's on the phone and we get that little just brief shot of like the corner office that's in this empty warehouse.
It's nice. That's nice. Like they're not shoving the joke in your face. Like, do you get? It's just a nice.
It's just great, and everything is white, and right down to like laying on his desk is the most beautiful white Samoyed dog, and it's just who does show up again later too. But and also Scrimshaw is played by Kevin McCarthy, who was in Invasion of the Body Snatchers, the original one in 1956.
Oh, okay, just kidding.
He was that dude. He was also in UHF. Yeah. He was the villain in UHF.
Oh, yeah.
That's where that. So,
that's right.
Yeah,
there you go.
And he went on because I was like,
oh no, he's not in.
Yeah, I was like, is he in Gremlins? I'm like, no, he's not in Gremlins. He's not in Gremlins.
Oh yeah, UHF.
Yeah, it was UHF. I was like, I know we've seen this guy.
Beloved.
So he at this point, I mean, he was just really enjoying playing these kinds of characters, and I think it's just a delight to watch.
Yeah,
someone have fun like that,
just having fun, being hammy
and being silly, and knowing like I get to play it big.
Just a silly guy.
Yeah, it's fun, and I love the white everything though, and the furs. Like he's such a drip lord.
Yeah, drip lord. No, but it's not. It's. Again, I think it's just like the way it's shot and the way it looks. Right. It just kind of grounds it in a way that it really works for me.
Yeah, and then the whole thing with I like that the villain is also like, or initially the main villain we find it is a woman, which I think is kind of fun. And
yeah,
then,
like she has this beautiful perm when she first takes off her mask head thing.
Yeah, the reveal, the classic like take the helmet off and shake out
it was,
a whole head of hair.
It was perfect Julia Roberts hair, and I was just like, that's funny. Look at her, and she's like a real Carmen Sandiego.
And the way Mr. Igo like works for her in every way.
Yeah.
That was fun and brief as well.
It's good little moments.
Yeah, great moments. So as I mentioned earlier, this idea originated with a producer named Peter Guber and Chip Proser, who they got the script optioned at Warner Brothers. It was rewritten by Jeffrey Boehm as a comedy, and the whole sort of spin on it was, imagine if Dean Martin was shrunk down inside Jerry Lewis. Mm-hmm. And he had, which is kind of like really the idea.
That's funny because didn't Dennis Quaid play Jerry Lewis?
Oh, did he?
In a movie? Or am I confusing him with something? Great Balls of Fire? No.
That's Jerry Lee Lewis.
Jerry Lee Lewis.
Different Jerry Lewis.
Yeah, no, I know stuff.
It's okay.
I know things. Listen, I know these people.
It's a very easy thing to mix up.
Like
I literally remember going to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in Cleveland and audibly standing there with a friend, and we were like, is Jerry Lee Lewis the same as Jerry Lewis? Like,
no, I'm not the only one.
And then, like feeling kind of embarrassed that like, did anyone hear us say that? Like,
you know what?
Whatever.
Fuck them if they did.
We asked a question.
They have the same name. Okay.
They do.
They got the same name.
So the script was bonkers, and it was really beloved. It got the interest of Spielberg, John Carpenter, Joe Dante. And when Jeffrey Boehm got the attention of Spielberg, Warner Brothers thought he was a genius and were just like, we'll give you everything. Yeah. Here's the money. Here, take it. And so Spielberg, for a moment, it looked like he might direct, but he ended up just sort of coming on as an executive producer. Joe Dante got attached to it and wouldn't let go. So, and then they brought it over to be produced at Amblin, which that environment, is really good for.
This fits right in. Like this is the type of movie they would want to do.
Yeah, I mean, if you make something there, you get all the best equipment. Yeah. You get all the toys. And creative problems are really understood, and they protect you from other producers. They protect you from the studio. Yeah. It was an incredibly creative environment, and you really can tell. Like there's so much. This thing is brimming with creativity. Yeah, it's great. Just a few details. One being that Meg Ryan went up against something like 400 other actresses to get this. Really? Which I'm like, She wasn't a newcomer at that point. I didn't think so, but apparently they read for that many or something. I don't know why.
Wow.
I didn't take the time to look into Meg Ryan.
Win a date with Dennis Quaid.
Yeah, basically. Well, she got a husband out of it, so.
Well, it's good chemistry. Good when you get a good screen test.
They did.
Then who's to say what's going to happen from there?
You're right.
You're
right.
I don't know.
You're right.
I don't know. I like her and stuff. I haven't seen a ton of things.
I'm not crazy about her, to be honest.
Okay.
So that's just my bias showing.
That's you.
It is just me. I just want to mention that in the creation of all those sort of inside the body special effects, they had a certain set of parameters they were trying to go for, which was they wanted it to look clean, healthy, and alive, but try not to make it look gross. But gross is a thing that is different for everybody, and they were trying to make it look more natural and like the art.
Yeah, it wasn't like repulsive,
right?
It could have been like gross out humor,
or
it could have been just like
if Cronenberg had made this, it would have been.
Oh yeah,
right,
full of fucking Crimes of the Future.
Yeah,
yeah.
We would have seen blood like oozing, black bile, and
yeah.
Yeah, it sounds kind of cool, actually.
Yeah, I mean, he should make a people shrinking type of movie.
Yeah, get on it. Or his son will do it, because they're like working in the same basic.
Yeah, they do. They both make movies.
They both make movies. That's all I'm saying. But just for an example, the artery, just sort of how Amblin can help out. They got special camera riggings with a waterproof housing to create, and then they had these pumps moving the water because they wanted to create a sense of a current.
Yeah, it looked good.
Yeah, and then they had
really
to. I don't know what the cells were made of, but they had to be transparent, and they had to be, pretty buoyant so that they would
this would all just be computerized now.
Exactly. They took the time to physically, and
not that they couldn't maybe make it pretty good. Like James Cameron's pretty.
But
he likes to.
But man,
try to make his stuff look realistic.
It feels different.
Yeah,
and
it's a different flavor.
And the other thing was they were really concerned about the lighting, not looking like the sun is just shining through the sky.
Yeah.
So they created this really low lit effect by working on red lights through plexiglass, and they could just light up the plexiglass. And
dang, yeah.
They really thought about this. And
they earned that statue.
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
And by the way, Sean Connery was the one presenting the award that night, because I watched them accept it.
Oh, cool.
And he came out, and people just gave him like a huge fucking applause. Like, it was
Sean Connery?
Yeah, like almost like a full minute or something, or 30 seconds at least, of just like intense, like standing ovation type applause. And I think it's because he was in The Untouchables that year.
Oh,
I think
yeah.
he, like, just everybody was like,
oh, he's Bond.
Oh yeah, people were like, still,
he's like an icon. It's like like with Anthony Hopkins and Silence. It's like you got this iconoclastic actor.
But you know how like edgelordy people today are like, beats his wife though,
Oh, well, again, that also is emblematic
also
of
true.
it. It's a different time too.
Absolutely.
Woody Allen.
I'm just saying.
Allen was thriving, and it's all that's.
Yeah.
We look at like Dennis Quaid. It's like, oh, he's very unlikable, but it's like, oh, I gotta put on my late '80s
cap,
sexism kind of goggles or whatever. It's like, I don't think it's that big. I mean,
no, it's just
context is important. Looking,
I think it's just a reflection of like, right, the latent kind of or the lazy sexism. That's all.
Lazy's. It's just passive. Like, it's just
very
what
passive.
more of the norm was.
Yeah, we're not like. I don't think this movie isn't hating on women.
No, if anything, it's probably like, oh, she's so good. Like, we're fully establishing that she's too good for him.
We also get like a female villain in this, which is fun.
Right. I think there's a lot less has changed than we think in terms of how we try to, again, telegraph, like that we're up to speed on things, and like watching old award shows too. It's with things that we use the term woke, but this kind of these efforts and these sort of little performative or earnest
genuine.
or genuine, like.
But I get what you're saying. I just
strides.
Just to tie on a little bow on the end of that is just, I think it's fun that Darby O'Gill was one of the movies that they really took inspiration from. That's a movie Sean Connery was in, and it's just fun that he's presenting the special effects award that night. I don't know, it's like a little thread.
Yeah, just, I'm sure they think about that stuff.
I think
there's a lot of intentionality in how they
I really like
who they select to.
Yeah, and of course, I mean, Bond had special effects as well, but I just think there was something. Like, Joe Dante specifically mentioned Darby O'Gill in like an interview. So I thought that was lovely. Do you have any reviews you want to share with us?
Yeah. So, this is a pretty liked movie,
beloved.
On Rotten Tomatoes. Interestingly, the critic scores 82%. The audience scores 65%. I wonder how much of that is looking with that modern lens, like we were just talking about, because without that added context too, I can imagine depends on your patience, I think, getting through certain plot points, certain character feature. Dennis Quaid, just that's the schmucky kind of guy. But it's
the movie doesn't waste too much time, though, I will say.
Right. It's mostly like ripe tomatoes here, but I wanted to go ahead and say 3 out of 4 rating from Gene Siskel. Innerspace is a classic example of a film that would achieve more if it tried less, which I think we agree.
That's kind of what we were talking about.
Yeah, but it still is an ambitious comedy made funny by short, sweet performance.
Yeah.
There's that sweet, without his sweetness, it's just a kind of a bunch of assholes.
Yeah.
So he's kind of not that everybody's a dick, but for the most part, everyone's at least a little bit there's like also, obtuse or grating.
There's also a lot of sublime cuts that are funny.
Yeah. It's well crafted. There's that. I would say as far as performances go.
I know you're sharing reviews.
No,
I'm just
you're
thinking
fine.
about this moment, like at the grocery store where the manager is like, you need to get on the register now. And then this woman comes up and is like, smell this. It's like, makes them smell a chicken. Yeah. And then they just cut. Like, that's it. But there's so many moments in this movie like that where there's just like a little joke and then we're out. Like they don't linger. Anyway,
You are correct. I was sorry. I caught on. I locked eyes with a super reviewer, Jesse, on Rotten Tomatoes, who I just wanted to validate you, Victoria.
Please, yeah.
And it was in a sense, it's a 2.5-star review. It's from 2017, so not too far ago. But I liked reading some of the more far ago, on a land out yonder. Anyway. So he's, I hate to start off with this, but if I were to compile a list of the most boring actors alive, Dennis Quaid would have to be on that list. I'll never say the guy's a bad actor. He's perfectly fine and even somewhat charismatic here. Blah, 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 blah. I'm trying to, this guy does not like Dennis Quaid. So he's putting
himself up in the mirror. Yeah, no. This is validating.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Anyway, the rest of it is now they're just kind of, it's getting long.
No, thank you. Thank you.
But some of the other reviews overlap with one of the first Letterboxd reviews that you see when you pull it up, 3.5 stars from Sean. Martin Short has one pitch, but it's a cutter. It's like he has his wheelhouse and he excels in it.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think I would argue at this point now he's definitely shown a lot more like earnestness and dimension. I don't think he's necessarily as one note as that. Maybe at that time that was just the thing he was always doing.
I think there's a lot of people who've pointed out that comedy is much harder than drama. And
Vivian Lee said that it's easier to make people cry than laugh.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And
reviews. Michael, 3.5 stars. The Big Short. That's it.
That's good.
I would say the average review I'm seeing here is about a 3.5 to 4 stars. It says 3.4 average rating. I think the consensus on Rotten Tomatoes, I know I'm reading a lot of just bare bones stuff, but it's pretty straightforward. Like, again, like as we were saying from the get-go, this is a pretty straightforward movie. And so critic consensus is a manic, overstuffed blend of sci-fi, comedy, and romance. Innerspace nonetheless charms thanks to Martin Short's fine performance and the insistent zaniness of the plot. And it's really, I like that the through line is that whether or not some people seem to be determined to kind of backhand the compliment of Martin Short's performance, like with the he's one note, but it works here. It's like, well, he does a great job. Like,
that's unfair.
Why you gotta be mean to Martin Short? Okay,
no,
he's been through enough.
That's really ridiculous.
No, yeah, I just now I'm projecting.
The fact that this movie wouldn't work without him.
People have to put like kind of an asterisk on certain things, like this person that I can imagine that to be the case with other comedic performances.
What do you call it? Bet hedging.
Yeah.
I don't want anyone to.
Or you watch like I watched recently for the first time Happy Gilmore, and it's like, Adam Sandler's he's doing that thing, but he does a great job at it. It's like,
I do love Happy Gilmore.
It's fantastic.
I will never not love Happy Gilmore.
But it's the idea that I think comedy has this false association of being, it's just like it's treated as less reputable when it's actually a much more difficult skill.
Yeah, and I mean,
so we gotta that's whole undercutting of comedic actors.
We know this because there are so many elder statesmen of the comedy world who transition beautifully into drama. We watch Bob Odenkirk do it.
I think you have to know the nuance to be a strong comedian. Yeah, like actually,
you understand
to understand
all of
the
it.
Lower state of being.
Yeah,
you know?
No, it's there's so many examples of that. I mean, I think like Patton Oswalt's pretty much stayed in comedy, not so much drama. But it was like when you mentioned Adam Sandler when he did Punch Drunk Love.
Oh right. Jim Carrey, Eternal Sunshine.
Oh, great example.
Or The Majestic or Truman Show.
Yeah. People who are thought of as these
Robin Williams with 1 Hour Photo and the other one.
1 Hour Photo is like so.
But the one with Al Pacino. I'm blanking on the name of.
I know what you're talking about.
You know what I'm talking about.
I do. Yeah.
That was the one that was more. I was trying to think of that one, but 1 Hour Photo is the first.
You know
one
what though?
And Good Will Hunting. He won the Oscar for that.
That's right. The Birdcage.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about Death to Smoochie as well, which is a very underrated movie.
But also Birdcage was underrated too. What I was looking up from that, it kind of got dismissed.
There's a lot of
it gets dismissed, but then we look back and we're like, wow, this is a treasure. This is one of the greatest.
One of the things I can watch almost any day of the week.
I think it was Roger Ebert who was like, oh yeah, everybody just kind of does the thing they always do. in this
Fuck
movie.
that. No.
I might be misquoted. It's
I
on
mean,
Wiki.
okay.
It's one of the big
Yeah.
ones because I wikied it while I was
Okay.
watching it a couple weeks ago. Birdcage, and it's
Love
just that
that
kind of
movie.
idea of like, I think just the habit of taking for granted
Yeah.
the talent.
No, that movie is
Yeah.
such a homecoming too for
fantastic.
Nichols and May, and like that's a whole
Yeah.
behind it. But then, I mean, Nathan Lane and Robin
Right,
Williams.
right.
I was
Right.
listening to a podcast recently where they were talking about sort of the worst movie characters of all time, and they come up with this top 10 list to submit. And I think number 2 or number 1 was Val, like the son. Like,
Yeah.
what a piece of shit.
Oh,
that
he
guy-
sucks.
He sucks
And
so
he's
bad.
so not 21. He's very visibly 30.
He is definitely
And I looked it
30.
up, and I was like, did they just? I know people used to look older in the
Yeah.
past. There's like they did
Yeah.
a YouTube video like inquiring about that, and
Yeah.
I was like, no, he was like about 30.
He was 30.
He was supposed
They
to
just
be like
got
a college
bullshit.
junior or something.
God, that was such bullshit. I kind of believe.
How dare they?
Callista Flockhart was more believable, I think, because she was just like so waifish.
They put her in a very
But
Brandy Melville type of shift dress,
right,
very
but I'm
cute.
also like, but she could also. I don't know. For all I know,
She was a little bit
also
older
in
too.
her
Though.
20s.
She
or
was in
30s.
her like mids,
Yeah.
I think, because I was just curious. I was like,
They're not in college.
I get interested in that stuff. I'm like, really? Are they that's what they looked at that age? Is he
God,
really only 21? Because
Someone has
he
to
looks
like
30.
me
He looks 30.
best.
Somebody has to like me best. I didn't look up her age at the time of
Yeah.
shoot, but she was fantastic.
Anyway.
too. Yeah. Anyway.
Some other movies that were out when this movie came out: Adventures in Babysitting, Dragnet, Full Metal Jacket. That was in the theaters. Roxanne, Predator, The Untouchables, and then later that summer we got Jaws 4.
So many big movies. Everything is very
Big,
big and
big,
broad.
big.
Everyone's on cocaine.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's
87.
This is like Innerspace is just part of peak
part of that
80s cocaine movie pitches.
cocaine fueled. Well,
Yeah.
here's some other examples of that. As I said, Jaws 4, Revenge of the Nerds 2, RoboCop, The Lost Boys, Superman 4, Dirty Dancing, The Living Daylights, and La Bamba. Those last few might not be so coke fueled.
No, they are. Those are all. They're all musical.
They're big.
bigger movies. Yeah, that
They're
year
big.
was not a year. They did not have a moment of grace that year.
No, God, there was no respite.
Yeah,
A lot of people just were like, I'm going to stay home.
yeah.
Watch TV.
Maybe you can unpack parallels in context. Is that the Reagan era at the time, or
Yeah.
is it George Bush?
Oh, yeah, no, it was
Yeah.
Reagan era. Yeah,
Yeah.
87.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then,
Yep.
Yeah. Can you draw some parallels on that? No, we don't. No, let's go. Get back to the.
We'll get back
to inner space. What are we
All
doing?
right, well,
we
we're-
have too much tangent.
We're talking about Joe Dante now.
Right.
Who's in our director's chair this week. Born Joseph James Dante to a father with the exact same name, who was a professional golfer. He was born November 28th, 1946, in Morristown, New Jersey, although he grew up in Livingston, New Jersey. I tried to find out information about his mother. I could not find anything.
That's okay.
I tried. As a teenager, he wrote articles for Castle of Frankenstein, which was a fanzine for horror film addicts. And I don't know, it's very cool to me that he was like getting into it through writing. He attended the Philadelphia College of Art. And then for a while there, he was considering becoming a cartoonist. And when I think about the function and role of what a good cartoonist can do, his films kind of feel like they're kind of satirical, but they're absurd.
Oh, the Looney Tunes stuff makes a lot of sense.
Doesn't it?
Yeah.
And I just think, just to jog back to the Innerspace for a moment, it's set in Silicon Valley, so on some level it is just satire. It's absurd, but this whole secret project and
Very goofy.
very goofy. So while he was at the College of Art, he and a friend, John Davidson, edited a 7-hour compilation of vintage film clips, like some big supercut of crazy, crazy stuff called The Movie Orgy. And apparently Schlitz Beer or something was a sponsor to this, and it was shown at colleges. I don't know. But it got the attention of one Roger Corman. Dante got a job editing trailers with him at New World Pictures. And this is the first time he's worked with 35 millimeter prints or anything like that. He's just come out of art school. And when Corman realizes that Dante really wants to direct, here's $50,000, go make a movie. He did that same thing with Coppola. We talked about that before,
Yeah.
And he made that Dementia 13 film. So it's just interesting. Like, Corman deserves a lot of credit for, really helping filmmakers come up.
Yeah.
And just, he may be the king of cheese.
Coolman.
Yeah. Yeah. salute to Roger Corman. So when he gets that $50K, he makes a film called Hollywood Boulevard, which is a comedy about a fictitious film studio called Miracle Pictures. It sounded funny. I mean, I kind of want to see it. But the slogan of this fictional company was, if it's a good picture, it's a miracle.
Yeah.
That feels kind of rich.
That's true.
That is rich. That's very rich.
Well, any movie's a miracle.
Exactly.
How hard it is to make one.
And if it's good,
Yeah.
definitely a miracle. I mean, that's,
Yeah,
there's
dude.
something really succinctly funny and genius about that slogan. So that just, he's smart.
Yeah.
This guy's smart.
Yeah, they know what they're doing.
I should also mention that he worked with Alan Arkush, and he worked as an uncredited director on Rock and Roll High School because Alan Arkush was like suffering from exhaustion or something. So technically there were a few days where he was working on that, which was also a Roger Corman type production. He went on to make Piranha, which was kind of like a Jaws spoof in a way. That was 1978. Then The Howling in 81. At that point, he gets the attention of Steven Spielberg, and Steven Spielberg says, hey, like, you should direct a segment of the Twilight Zone, the movie. We'll bring you in for that. And then after that, Spielberg...
Which one was his in that?
I'm not sure. I didn't check into it. But do you know that movie well?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I'm just thinking, because I just remember, like, the main criticisms were against Landis and Spielberg, and it was Dante and the other... it was the other two, like, lesser named directors that ended up looking way better. I don't know. He either did the remake of It's a Good Life, or he did the remake of the Nightmare at 30,000 Feet.
I think it was It's a Good Life.
It's a Good Life.
Yeah, I remember
which is
reading
very.
that.
I mean, let's talk cartoons, and then you also have the voice of Bart Simpson, and there.
Nancy Cartwright.
Yeah, Nancy Cartwright's in it, and she gets put into a cartoon as a punishment. Like, there's a lot of. Cool. That makes a lot of sense. Although in both cases, in both cases for both of the short films, but no, that's cool. That's cool to see that parallel. Yeah, very, very much a cartoon dude.
Yeah, right. I mean,
that shit was scary a little bit too.
Yeah,
actually.
And it's on the strength of that work then that Spielberg's like, all right, we got something for you.
Yeah, practical effects too in that as well.
They're good. Yeah,
like they really. That's what makes it scary.
He's into it.
That's what makes it scary.
Well, then it's time for Gremlins. And now he gets Gremlins, which, I almost can like put down, the biography, because it's like Gremlins, once you do Gremlins, and that's a movie that like I had never seen, until very recently. And I went for Christmas time, because it's a Christmas movie, to the New Bev. And it was really just a lot of fun to see it.
That's a great way to see it for the first time if you didn't grow up with it.
Yeah, with like a crew of people who were all into it, laughing at every joke. And I was just astounded at how funny it was. Yeah. And we stayed because it was a double feature. They're showing Gremlins Part 2. You know?
You got to do it back to back.
And so it was just like, damn. So no, that was such a good...
Looney Tunes again.
Yes.
I mean, he's got the guy...
And he literally
likes cartoons.
Well, he literally did the Looney Tunes Back in Action movie as well.
There you go.
So, which Brendan Fraser was in. So
there you go.
Another connection there. But he does a lot of creative shit. And
he was also in Monkey Bone. That's right. No, but honestly, that could have been a good movie if he did it. Maybe. I wonder if he had directed it.
Interesting.
What change would have been.
In '85, he does Explorers, which is sort of about kids in a submarine. Which people were like, "Oh, is Innerspace going to be like that too?" And it's like they managed to really limit how much time they spent filming Quaid, in his little capsule. It would
have been pretty boring.
Oh yeah,
I mean that was a lot to see.
I'm not going to list everything Joe Dante has done, but just a few things. He directed The Burbs, Gremlins 2, which, by the way, he did not want to make a sequel to Gremlins, and the studio begged him. They just begged him and begged him.
Well, if you're going to make a sequel, that's how you do it. Yeah. That's what I love about Gremlins. It's kind of one the best sequels, I think, take a page out of that book, like with Austin Powers 2. It's like just you go harder, but not in like the Dumbo logic of like, oh, if they liked one, they'll like 40 of them. It's like, it's the idea of just tonally really leaning into the silly.
Yeah. And you're right. Gremlins 2 is a excellent example of a good sequel.
Yeah. And I feel that way about like Glass Onion or, again, Austin Powers, The Spy Who Shagged Me. I feel like good sequels of comedies. They know what works and they really... they lock into it. They don't. And then the third one comes out in some cases, and it's like, oh, it's a little too much.
Well, I mean, I like
a little too much sugar in my blood.
I like to blame like Star Wars and Lord of the Rings for just everything has to be a trilogy now. Like, God damn it. And like, you know,
Oh, yeah.
anyway.
I
But
don't
that's
know.
not totally their fault. Dante also directed Small Soldiers. I mentioned Looney Tunes Back in Action, Matinee, The Hole, and Burying the X more recently. Just some comments he made on Innerspace. He said, well, it was a hit on video because it was one of the first VHS releases. And so people really discovered it on tape. And I wouldn't be surprised if maybe there's some listeners who are like, oh, we had a VHS copy of that and watched it like every Saturday. You know?
It played on TV too. And like, as I was watching this, I was like, you know what? I actually vaguely remember the moment that Dennis Quaid discovers that Meg Ryan's pregnant. Like, I vaguely remember seeing that scene on TV. So I think when I was really small, maybe I actually saw this.
I hear what you're saying. I feel like I remember those fat cells in his butt. Or something.
Yeah, I remember the fetus and him driving around it and him being like, I'm a daddy, I'm gonna be a daddy.
I really hated that part.
That was weird too. Well, because she just doesn't look it at all, and it looks like a 4 or 5 months. Like it has like a lot of.
It's like, this is not biologically accurate.
I don't know. I was just like, oh, she's not really. She's
pretty far along, I guess.
She's got to be fairly. We got phalanges.
I know.
We got phalanges showing. We got eyes.
It was kind of. I don't know. It also it felt very pro-lifey. Just in general, you know.
Well, yeah. Again, just a different time.
Different time.
You got Dennis Quaid, you got Dennis Quaid in the lead. We're keeping Meg Ryan's keeping the baby.
Yep. Another thing Dante said about the film, he said the ad campaign was terrible for that movie. It was just a giant thumb with a tiny pod on it. You couldn't tell it was a comedy. You couldn't tell anything. And it had a terrible title because we could never figure out a better one.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like it's just a straight up like sci-fi.
Yeah.
Well, like, I mean, again, I you know, it was not something.
Yeah.
It's not something that I'd seen before. So again, I thought this was a very different movie when I put it on. I was very pleasantly surprised. That it was predominantly just a Martin Short comedy,
just a wild ass comedy.
Yeah,
yeah. And apparently they did try to create a new campaign that was more highlighting that, but it still didn't really work. And he said, you know, it's been looked back on as if it was some great success, but he's like, in fact, it was pretty much a disappointment.
Well, yeah, like a cult. It's a cult classic.
It's
like
a cult.
A lot of people have nostalgic love for it.
Definition cult
and I
classic.
think, again, like you said, VHS. Just it was an accessible movie.
Hell yeah,
and solid.
Yeah,
you know.
Who's your best supporting player?
I just really like I really like his coworker. You really screwed that up. That was one of my favorite lines. I laughed really hard at that. And I mean, there's a lot of secondary characters.
I gotta say, I love his doctor, Dr. Greenbush.
His doctor's
for
great.
The part where, you know, he's like I'm pretty sure you're not possessed, but he's like, but if you were, well, medieval times they would flay the skin off of you.
Yeah.
And he's like, I have no idea what the current thinking is.
It's very funny.
That doctor killed me.
He kind of reminded me of like that character in Happy Gilmore. That's like, you're not gonna like what I have to say. You got to take the house. The accountant guy or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're telling you something very unhinged, but in a very sort of glib.
I was thinking about Death Becomes Her and Sidney Pollack, the doctor, trying to get a pulse. There's nothing. Oh. Okay.
That's a good. I like that parallel too.
There's something about doctors being glib shits. That's like, it's a trope.
Yeah, it's like Dr. Spicheman.
Dr. Spicheman.
I
love that. I love Dr. Spicheman so much.
Yeah, that's a great.
Don't worry. I was at a costume party.
Yeah,
the host dog jumped up on me and I had to stab it with a knife.
So good. Again, like the perfect tone. Yeah. Like right there.
Oh God, no.
Perfect
Chris
tone.
Parnell, excellent.
Yeah.
Would you watch this again?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I would rush to put it on because again, I get misunderstanding plot points get tedious for me. And there wasn't too much of that, but like I would just trying to get the explanation out of the thing. Yeah. I felt that way too. Like a soul is another, you have like kind of a body swap kind of thing. It's like, oh, how do I communicate to this person through this other thing? And I get that gets a little tedious for me sometimes, but it's still fun. Like if it was on, I would probably get sucked into it pretty quickly.
Yeah, I mean, I think, maybe it was just it had one too many complications.
I think, like you said, it's 2 hours, and it could have definitely been like 90.
Yeah, even 15 minutes off would have made a big difference. Yeah. I think. I mean, not to be such a dick. I mean, I feel like
I don't think you're being a dick. I would say I think Everything Everywhere could have lost maybe like 15 minutes.
I mean, for some people, every frame of this is hilarious and funny. And they don't, for a movie that goes on for 2 hours, they do give you plenty to enjoy.
Yeah. It's
fun.
not straight up boring. That's
No.
just
No.
a small quibble that I get. That is just a tropey thing that I don't enjoy.
Yeah,
is the misunderstand, the eavesdrop, or I walked in and it's not what it looks like when it's like I don't.
Yeah, it's too much of
that sort of.
It's lazy. It's lazy.
If people just took 10 seconds to explain things, but then no movie, but so
It's a different kind of movie.
It's
like from Europe.
I like movie. Yeah. So, this is a weird comparison I'm going to draw, but like,
Do it.
where she like cleans up after her daughter, like her daughter explains what happened to her and she
Voltaire.
There we go. Voltaire. And it's like, very obviously extremely different movies, but part of what I really enjoyed, not just on like an emotional, I just for story, just as a watcher of movies, I just like when someone just is like, okay, yes, you're a person who's close to me and I believe you.
Yes.
Like
you're right. No, that's a really good example to draw. No, totally. Because there was the movie was not about that tension at all.
Yeah.
It was
we can just move forward.
Yep.
And there's they accept the reality too of the mother. We're
all right, move on.
I just think that is a good example of a movie that shows you can still movie without spending so much time trying to.
No, you're right. It is
explain.
It's
Although
very tedious.
Volver has that aspect of it, but it's I don't know. They are different movies, aren't they?
They're incredibly different.
My brain's farting out, but you get it.
I get it.
You get it.
I get it. All right. Well, thank you for listening. You can follow us on all the social media stuff, Fresh Movie Pod. You can send us an email at abreathofreshmovie@gmail.com. You can go on to TeePublic. There's a link in the show notes.
You can dance if you want to.
You can dance if you want to.
You can leave your friends behind.
Because if your friends don't dance.
Because your friends don't dance. Because they don't dance. And if they don't dance.
Then they're no friends of mine.